Welcome to Two Humans Talking, the podcast where we talk about the challenges of staying healthy in this modern, fast-paced world. I'm Tiffany Sims, your nutrition and high performance coach.
And I'm Chelsea Scroggins, your yoga teacher and motivational speaker. Let's get to talking.
I feel that in my life right now, there's a lot of transitions. So we are transitioning from summer and preparing for fall. We're transitioning from vacation mode to everyone back into like school starting mode.
Yeah.
And then for me in business, I'm transitioning it from just approaching clients from a one-on-one meeting humans on the street to that plus corporate wellness programs. And so thanks.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool too. It's actually very exciting. However, it is a transition and transitions are messy and they're hard. And I feel like we have two camps. One camp is like plow through, it is what it is, it's gonna suck, and I'm just gonna like hold on and ride it out. And then there's like this camp of I'm just gonna sit back and be hands off, check out, whatever. And neither one of those options would actually be like serve me right now. I can't be hands off. I'm doing things I've never done before in a transition. I can't just plow through because I also know that plowing through with no intention and letting other people and other circumstances control me isn't good for my holistic health and well-being. And that's like the first step into getting back on a hamster wheel where you just let everyone else control your actions and you feel like there's nothing for you. And so like reminding myself that this is what hard feels like, but hard doesn't mean the end of the world. And it doesn't mean that I need to be depleted at the end of the day either. That depletion is a choice. It's a choice if I allow the activities in the day and figuring out new things in these transition periods to zap all of the energy from me.
So with that being said, how do you navigate through those hard times? Do you give yourself like, okay, I do 3 hours in the morning or 3 hours through the day to really dedicate on this certain thing, and then I give myself a break? Or do you just focus on like one aspect of it for this whole week, and then next week you move on to the other aspect? Like, how do you navigate through that so that way you don't feel depleted at the end of the day? Because I think a lot of us don't know how to do that. So I was just curious on
That's a really
your
great question.
on how
And
you do that.
you're basically asking me, and I've never really thought about, you're basically asking me what's your process, what's your system? And I don't think that as humans, we think about our daily stuff as systems and processes. That's usually a hat you put on when you become like when you're an integrator or you're a role in a business, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so let me have a second to really think about this. Okay.
One we do. No, I'm just kidding.
I really think that the biggest skill I have learned and that I have practiced and that has become second nature to me is being able to pause when I find myself wound up and overwhelmed to the point that it's like analysis paralysis. I don't even know what to do.
Right.
Is allowing myself those 5 to 10 minutes to think about what it is that I'm actually working on and what the end goal is. Not what my next step is, not what I'm in the middle of, but like, where is this going? What do I want the result to be?
You always go back to your main mission on what basically your root, your value, like what this ultimate thing, the main goal is.
Yes. So let's use the example of me working on this corporate wellness program and transitioning from what I've been doing with group coaching with human to humans that I meet on the street, and then presenting it in a way that a corporation finds value and actually allows that program to serve their employees. My end goal is that the employees of the companies that I partner with can finally let go of, like, heal from the burnout, heal from the overwhelm following COVID, and actually simplify healthy living so that they're just simply healthy. That's my end goal, for me to get in front of these humans and teach them how to be simply healthy, so there's no more mental exhaustion of tracking all of the things and just letting all of the world consume them and exhaust them. That's my end goal. So then when I go back to it, okay, for me to do that, what is the actual thing I need to be doing right now? Because I just caught myself down a rabbit hole and I made this project overcomplicated. And it's like, oh, I need to put together the deliverable. Okay, what's the deliverable? Now I need to take that deliverable and I need to chunk it down into a full proposal and paint the value. Okay, what does an executive need to know about value of this program for them to purchase it? And then it's like, oh, that's the bite. That's what I need to do. I don't need to worry right now about how we sell it to the employees once the employer signs the check, because that's the step. Without getting the executive board on board, without
Yes.
getting the executive board aligned and seeing the value and how this is going to return an ROI for the company, allow higher retention, less turnover, more fulfilled employees who come to work and actually perform at a higher level. That's what I need to focus on right now. Once I secure the contract, then it's okay, how do I paint the picture so that employees actually register for this service? And so that was a really long-winded example, but it's what is the end result that I want?
You stay focused. So the mission for you is how you don't turn burnout is you stay focused on what truly is valuable in this moment, that's going to move that needle forward, that's actually going to make the difference today.
Yes.
And then you'll worry about tomorrow's problem tomorrow.
Yes.
Or next week, or when that problem arises. And I think that that's so valuable, because I feel like a lot of us are like, but what if, and how do we worry about, but if it rains on that Wednesday way all the way in March, like you can't worry about that today because we're all the way here in August, you know what I mean? So
because it doesn't matter, because if you don't do what you need,
that's spiraling instead of moving the needle forward.
Rain or retreat you might be planning does not matter if you don't fill the seats.
Correct. So there's that. Yeah. So that's beautiful. So that's awesome. So you stay focused. And then how long do you dedicate each day to that right now? Or do you just kind of open-ended, and then once you feel like you've created that
deadlines are, I know what my deadlines are. And I did this, and this doesn't just apply to me as a business owner. This is how I functioned and how I survived working 16-hour days in a pressure cooker for commercial nuclear power. It was, what's the actual deadline? What are the deliverables that actually matter? And then depending on when something is due and what else is on my plate, it ebbs and flows. How many meetings do you have? How many obligations do you have? What time do I need to leave work for X, Y, and Z?
Right.
And then how much do I actually need? Because we as humans will take as much time as we allow ourselves to finish something.
Facts.
You can't create false urgency. Your brain, your body and brain know, they're smart. They know. And so if you're like, okay, this is due tomorrow, but it's really due a month from now, you're not getting it done. You're just not. True. And so why set yourself up for failure? It's just another reason to be disappointed in yourself when really you just.
So do you set like timers, or do you write down, okay, X, Y, and Z needs to be done by Wednesday, and so that's what you do, and then you're like, S, T, and U needs to be done by Friday morning at 12 or whatever. I guess that's noon, but you know what I mean? Is that how you do it? So you keep track.
I keep a list. It's like, okay, what do I need to do today? What are the absolute non-negotiables that need to be finished today? And then those get done first. because a
And
lot of times it's busy
I
work.
think,
Most of the time it's busy work. And it's like, I didn't even need to do that. How did I get lost down this rabbit hole? That's what happened to me
and
yesterday.
that's what I, try to even let everybody know is write it down. Like, I know it sounds crazy because you're like, oh, I remember that, or I got it. But it's like, then you have it all in here, and then you forget half the stuff that you're supposed to remember, but you will stay more on track by writing
Well,
it down, like
yes.
writing an actual list.
And then when you
And
get lost down a rabbit hole because you're human and your brain starts like you think of something and then you're like, oh my God, I need to do blah 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 blah. So when you get down a rabbit hole, all of a sudden you see that list on your desk and you're like, wait a
focus,
second, that's not
focus,
today. I need to get back
focus.
on track. Like,
Focus, yeah, yeah,
yes,
back to focusing. And the other
yes.
cool thing that I started to do, just to throw it out there, because like I've been writing lists, I'll write 11 things down on my list, right? But then it's like that's not realistic to do in a day, even though I'm like, you can do this in a day. I'm like, girl, no, you ain't. But I still write it down because I'm over ambitious, right? But what I've found that's great is just taking three of those items and writing those down. And like I find that when I do that, I get those three done like that. Like it's just done. When I have 11, I'm like, it's almost like it's overwhelming, So I keep my 11 set aside because I want to stay focused on, all those tasks. But then I pick three that I need to do right now. And that's
I
what's been
have a
helping me.
list. I have a Google Doc that when I have like ideas where I'm like, oh, that's really awesome. I want to do that.
Mhm.
It goes on the Google Doc. So I can come out of my brain and onto paper and I don't lose it, but it allows me to stay focused on the thing that's important right now. Because if
Perfect.
I went after every great idea that popped in my head during a day, I'd get nothing done.
Yeah.
We wouldn't make progress on anything.
Yeah. You wouldn't be where you're at today.
Can you tell that I'm really excited? Like, I love this topic. I'm like here. I'm like,
Yeah,
let's
I know
go.
me too. I'm like, can you see the progress?
Let's
Because I'm
talk
so
about
excited.
it.
I'm right
I
into the
can
camera. Yes,
I
it's
can
true.
hear it in
It's
my
true.
tone. I'm like, yes,
So
let's talk.
clearly we are organized. Like
But I wasn't
we
always
love
this
that
way.
organization of getting. Oh, you weren't. I'm always
No,
been this very productive and organized and like,
no,
let's get this done. So me, when I think of a vision or I think of a great idea, I get right to work. And then
nope.
everybody's like, slow down. I'm like, I can't slow down. Like we got to change the world. Things are happening. Like I just
I
get
have
so into it.
been, I always wanted to make life easier for everyone else. And I wanted them to value me in that process.
Mm.
That makes me feel icky to even say out loud. It's fine. Um, it's not a bad quality. The
No,
bad
because
part
you're thinking
about
about others.
the the disadvantage in that was that this pendulum was so far to the one side
Mm.
that I didn't have autonomy of me. And so I was always reacting to everyone else's needs and fires and urgencies. And at the end of the day, I was just a blobby mess who fed her, who soothed with like boxes of pasta and whole pizzas and eating in the closet because I just ate a whole box of pasta that everyone saw me eat. So I'm going to go keep eating in the closet where no one can see me. Like,
Right.
it
So you were
depended. Yes.
basically suppressing yourself and your feelings.
Yes.
Um, yeah.
And the best thing I ever learned how to do was realize that asking clarifying questions was not disrespectful, it wasn't combative, and it wasn't me being a whiny bitch. As long as I presented it from a place of forward solution thinking, get this done, not like, what do you mean you're going to add something else to my plate? Do you know what I have going on? Blah, blah, blah. Like, it would be more like, oh, okay, these are the things that I already have on the list today. Where did it rank in priority just so that like I'm working on the right things? And I actually learned how to, in that process, it was actually a hard transition for the people I reported to because they hadn't developed that skill. So it was uncomfortable at first. But the more I practiced, realizing that for me to be a really great employee, I had to know those answers in a respectful way. And so that upward coaching allowed them to be more organized of realizing what was on everyone's plate and what was actually important because
That's
everything
fair.
can't be important.
It's true. And just bringing back to the questions, I feel like a lot of people are afraid to ask a question, to get that clear, like, so somebody will say something and they won't understand it, but they're like, okay, like, because they're afraid to ask a question too. I always felt like because they didn't want to seem stupid. That's where my head goes. I'm like, they're not asking a question because they don't want to look like they don't know what they're talking about or what that other person is talking about. So I've always been the one that asks the question because I'm like, somebody in this room can utilize this question that I'm about to ask. And I think that the person that you ask, some people are like, oh my gosh, she's asking another question, but like they make it more clear for the
Oh,
rest. That way we're all on the same page. So in reality, it's brave of you to do that. I never did that. I never said like in the priorities of these, like I never did that. So that's actually wonderful. So
there's
thank
a way
you
to,
for
right way
sharing
to,
that.
and a wrong way to do it too. Because I had a coworker who made excellent points, but her delivery and the way that she delivered her message, no one ever heard her because she was just a complainy, squeaky wheel. But her
Mm.
points were valid. But she brought the emotion and the garbage part to the table in the like 14-year-old attitude, right? So
Right.
no one heard her.
Right.
Whereas if she had just toned back the emotion part and just presented the question,
Everybody would have heard it clearly.
yes, because she would get so frustrated because give it a week, someone else would present the same damn thing, and she'd be so
Mhm.
frustrated that
Like
something
I
would
just asked that.
change and
Yeah,
came from it. Because she's like, I brought that up last week. And so recognizing how you're coming to the table and are you presenting your questions in a way that they can actually be received to get the answer that you're seeking,
that's very true.
because that's
Very
really
true.
important too in that conversation. You
That's
can't
so
just
true.
be a 14-year-old pushing back at mom and dad because they asked you to do the dishes.
Yeah,
Like the 14-year-old probably had a point, but the way they brought it up to you, you're like, listen, little missy.
it's true. Not today, okay? Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So over
Oh,
time, that allowed me to learn how to keep my running list of tasks and
mhm.
learning what was the priority. And as far as how you actually put that in your day, I think that's human dependent.
Mhm.
I think that you have to find what works
What
best for
works.
you. But
Yeah,
I will say that you have to put it in the calendar. Now,
yeah,
whether you do time blocks or like you make it like a 15-minute appointment with yourself or you give yourself the whole afternoon, like that, you have to figure out what works and drives with you and
fair.
your brain. But if it's not on the calendar, you are not going to do it.
That's fair. And with that, those are facts, and that's two humans talking. That is beautiful.
See you
Bye.
next week. Bye.